Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Sirhan on X, coming to you live from Cincinnati, Ohio, live on the X platform, also streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram. Hope everybody out here is doing well on this fall day of 2024. Today is October 7th. Pretty actually breezy day here in Cincinnati. I actually love it. Mid 60s. Now it's time to bust out the hoodies and suits. Hope everybody's out there. Happy Victory Monday to all of the my followers out there for your teams yesterday. Great slate of games, especially an instant classic here in Cincinnati, which I'm going to get into today and some points tomorrow because some people want to attach my name to their mounts, but I'll get to that later. Let's divulge into the. I did start with a weekly recap. Going to get into the games a little bit. Going to go back to a thriller Thursday night in Atlanta. The Atlanta Falcons beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. See, my Kirk Cousins finally got himself going a little bit. Get him, who was all that great so far. Good showing by him. Also a good showing by the Buccaneers. A very, very good game back and forth. It took a little while, but I thought Kirk Cousins finally got himself going a little bit. Tampa Bay had their chances to close it, but of course there was the fumble late. Atlanta converted to a game-tying field goal by Young-Ho Koo. And, of course, he marched down into overtime. But once again, everybody's going to hup over the overtime rules after that game. We've had enough overtime rules changes in the NFL as it is. Maybe we just need to leave it alone and leave it be. Because I get it, Atlanta drove down the field and scored, and Tampa Bay didn't get their opportunity. Problem here is where was Tampa Bay's defense? Reminded me of the complaints everybody had 3 seasons ago when Kansas City and Buffalo had that surreal divisional game of the 2021 NFL playoffs, and everybody, especially in Buffalo, who's still crying about it, feels the need to talk about the overtime rules because the one team drove down the field and scored, the other team didn't get their chance. How about playing some damn defense for a little bit? Because that's where I think the problem lies. When you guys call for these overtime rule changes, you're letting defense off the hook. It's okay to play defense in overtime, people. But Thursday night, a rare case of where we had a great Thursday night game, which basically has been basically a mediocre product ever since they decided to put this program here together. And it's actually nice to see for a change. So kudos to Atlanta. Tampa Bay, I think, will bounce back. The two meet again about a month in Tampa. A lot of people in Cleveland are now feeling need to slam Baker Mayfield, who was good but not great because he missed a couple wide open targets, especially the one of Mike Evans, which could have closed the game out. But Cleveland fans have no room to talk, especially with what they invested in. I'll get to that later. Now to the game in Europe. Minnesota's 5-0, beat the Jets. We can now officially say it. Aaron Rodgers is washed. 2 straight possessions. He threw blatant interceptions, especially the big pick 6 to Andrew Van Ginkel. They pick up Stephon Gilmore to help out Minnesota secondary, and he basically played well. Brian Flores has that defense all over the place right now. They made life living hell for Aaron Rodgers, and it was a good win. They're undefeated. Sam Darnold didn't play great, but he did enough to get the job done. For a team that was supposed to not do much, they're 5-0. They might just actually steal at this rate, they might just actually steal the North from either Green Bay or Minnesota. Granted, still many, many more games to go, but at this rate, that defense is looking pretty good. Jacksonville got their first win of the season. Kudos to them, beating Indiana. Nothing much to say. Jacksonville's still a hot mess. They invested $275 million in Trevor Lawrence, renamed the stadium after him. Nothing more to add to that. For Indiana, of course, Anthony Richardson is out. Joe Flacco played yesterday. Played great. The problem was that their defense couldn't stop Trevor Lawrence, and that's a bit mind blowing. We consider the fact that it doesn't take much to slow down Jacksonville's offense, which outside of Brian Thomas Jr., Christian Kirk, I don't know what they have. But kudos to Jacksonville. Solid win. Trevor Lawrence played very well. Got their first win of the season. Maybe puts Doug Peterson off the hot seat a little bit, or at least cools the hot seat down. Beat down to Washington. Washington over Cleveland. Jaden Daniels, he's him right now. In my opinion, he's not just a rookie of the year, but I would probably call him for offensive player of the year because this guy has just been lights out. I saw it here in Cincinnati 2 weeks ago, and he's continued there ever since. He played well here again. Didn't really have to do much more because the defense just made life a living heck for the $230 million fully guaranteed quarterback at Cleveland. They also the run game just pounded it down the Browns' throats. Washington is 4-1 and might just actually steal the division from Dallas and Philly at the rate they're going. They were so lopsided. The Commanders basically just told Jaden Daniels he can take a rest for the fourth quarter because the game was basically over. And Cleveland, once again, they're just listless right now. It might be the worst situation of any team in the NFL. I'll get into that probably more tomorrow because I have a special episode reserved to the two quarterbacks in Ohio and the two teams and basically the two fan bases. And you two, for the fan bases for those two Ohio teams, you're going to get it tomorrow. Speaking of the other team in Ohio, instant classic yesterday. Snap for snap, I got a chance to watch it. If you weren't at the edge of your seat after watching this game, I don't know what to tell you. Baltimore over Cincinnati. All of this, I don't have to divulge into this, but all this hubbub about over the last few years, whether or not Lamar Jackson is still that running back that still throws the football. If you legitimately still think Lamar Jackson's a running back that plays quarterback, get off this app and check for CTE. Lamar Jackson made the plays that needed to be made to get the job done yesterday. Of course, the game was marred by Zac Taylor with some of the most, I'll just call it egregious play calling at the most inopportune times and basically just blatantly threw the game away. And I mean blatantly and intentionally. And of course, he throws their $275 million quarterback under the bus. Actually, he doesn't. Saying he wanted to run play, and the quarterback would change something else. The formation was set up for a run. Nobody here is fooled. Great play all the way around by really both teams on offenses. Defense, the Bengals defense is what we expected this season because the front office willfully refused to put a product on the field on the defensive side, especially after last year when they were a walking embarrassment. But I've never seen the Ravens secondary just look like they were a bunch of lost causes. Yes, Marlon Humphrey got basically the game-saving interception because the quarterback felt the need to throw an intentional interception to him. But I've never seen the Ravens defenses get absolutely cooked the way they were yesterday. Maybe they get better down the line. Derrick Henry had the run after the missed field goal to set up the game winner to walk it off. It was a great game all around. Baltimore's 3-2. Cincinnati's 1-4. I don't want to hear anything about who's playing well for Cincinnati right now. You don't talk about good things on a team that's 1-4. You're 1-4 for a reason. You better accept it. For everybody from the top down. Tomorrow, I will devote my time to you guys over there because I'm going to basically just shred this because a lot of you guys here, again, don't get it. I have too much to get into today. I'm going to save you guys some face a little bit, especially the cosplay fans. You ain't going to like me tomorrow. I'm just in a good mood today. Miami over New England. Nothing more to say. I thought New England might have had a chance to pull it out. Miami just... It's basically probably the most sloppy game of the day. But Miami got the win. Nothing more, nothing less. New England should be playing Drake May now. I don't get why they're not. You're not going anywhere. You might as well play Drake Make now. I mean, what do you get by playing Jacoby Brissett? Says a lot about the character of Gerard Mayo, who is just clueless at the moment. Chicago beating Carolina. Everybody in Chicago is throwing a party right now, like beating Carolina is a big deal. As I said last week, with Cincinnati getting their first win against Carolina, bragging about beating the Panthers is like losing your virginity to a hooker. Chicago's acting like that also. Much ado about nothing. I'm sorry. I'm not. You guys still want? If you still think Caleb Williams is a guy over Jaden Daniels, come to me in about the next 5 years, because you guys are going to eventually regret it. Beating Carolina does nothing. Chicago does everything. Carolina does nothing. That's what I need to know. Another good one, of course, is Buffalo and Houston. Houston wins on a game-winning field goal. Houston tried everything to basically give this away, but Josh Allen was just so poor yesterday that they basically couldn't. I mean, how the hell for a quarterback of that caliber, who's supposed to be in the same conversation as Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, go 9 for 30? I literally had to read the stat like 20 times to make sure I read this correct. I tried to read this again. Yep, Josh Allen went 9 for 30, completing 30% of his passes. The Bills defense did everything they could to keep him in it. They picked off C.J. Stroud and had a strip sack, but Josh Allen was just abysmal yesterday. The fact they was able to keep this game close, largely because Houston tried everything he can to give it away. Of course, it didn't help. Nico Collins went out with an injury, but this putting Josh Allen in that Mahomes-Jackson conversation needs to stop after that. I mean, come on. 9 for 30. Especially when the defense did everything they could to help you win it, and Houston did everything they could to basically blow it. Congratulations. You got lucky. The C.J. Stroud was a good but not great, but yeah, he had a great throw to Nico Collins for the big touchdown. Nothing more to add. Buffalo, you can put Buffalo on the fraud watch. Two straight losses to playoff teams. Last week they got punked by Baltimore. This week they got beat by Houston. Up to the Northwest, the Giants over at Seattle. No Malik Neighbors, but Tyrone Tracy, if you have on my fantasy team, kudos to you. 129 total yards. Basically, with his running game, allowed Daniel Jones to actually play like an actual quarterback for once. 257 yards. And good road win. Seattle. The offensive line just absolutely abysmal. Geno Smith got nothing going. Good win for the Giants on the road, which is going to be few and far between. But they did this without Malik Neighbors, who's going to be back, still in the concussion protocol. But good luck, Cincinnati. You guys already chalked up a win against the Giants on Sunday night. Don't assume it. If Malik Neighbors comes back, you got your work cut out for you. Shocker in Arizona. Arizona sending the 49ers after the 49ers had a 13-point lead. The more things change, the more stay the same. 3 things are guaranteed in life: death, taxes, Kyle Shanahan not being man enough to close out games when he has a 10-point lead. And it happened again. Kyle Shanahan is just not man enough to close out games when you have a 10-point lead. Why is it? Who knows? Time after time after time after time after time, it seems like we're having at least a half dozen conversations a season about how Kyle Shanahan is not man enough to coach his team to win when they're up 10 plus points. Cost him 2 Super Bowls. Cost him a game earlier this year in LA against the Rams. Cost him again yesterday. Basically didn't help the offense, just fumbled the game away with 3 turnovers, and the Arizona defense came up big. They couldn't slow down James Conner, who had 86 total yards of himself. Big plays by Arizona. Didn't help San Fran, just basically gave it away. I mean, there's got to be a giver. There's got to be a taker. There's no one way or the other about it. You know, the same thing I talked about with the 2021 AFC title game between Cincinnati and Kansas City, where both teams fighting as to who gave it away or who lost it. I've always said it takes two to tango. If one's got to be a giver, there's got to be a taker. San Fran wanted to give it. Arizona took it. But it's time to have some real uncomfortable conversations about Kyle Shanahan again. Largely because if you're up 10 points every chance you get and you can't put a game away, what does it say? Probably the first time all season, San Fran basically missed Christian McCaffrey, because there probably been a game they probably would have kept it under control. But it doesn't help that this is another common theme for Kyle Shanahan, because he's just not man enough to close the deal. Sorry, that's the only way I can put it. Green Bay over LA yesterday. Jordan Love got going a little better. Adding Xavier McKinley is on the defense is starting to make a bigger difference. 2 turnovers. Rams basically had it but lost it. Actually, a good game, back and forth a little bit. But they're 1-4. Doesn't help they didn't have their 2 receivers, Nacua and Kupp. A team that was a dark horse to challenge for the NFC was crowned at the very least. Now they're 1-4, and they're basically on the brink of disaster. If they're not already, they're already. But good win for Green Bay. Jordan Love got going a little bit. Xavier McKinley's been a solid addition. Defense basically balled out. Shout out to them. Now I expect them to get going a little bit more now that Jordan Love is back, and once he starts to get more of a rhythm, they're gonna be one to watch. Still, maybe a top 2 or 3 team in the NFC when they're all right. Broncos over the Raiders. Nothing more to say. The Patrick Surtain signing was turned out to be a bargain right now, because he basically showed why he was worth it. He had that 100-yard pick six. Game was basically over at that point. Raiders are still a hot mess. They're basically bailing on Antonio Pierce right now. Well, of course, they're the Raiders. What do you expect? I mean, they find it. I mean, they're basically trying to. They want to bail out of the stadium because they're so upset. Kansas City has won a Super Bowl there before the Raiders can host a playoff game. That's why you guys shouldn't have left Oakland. You should have stayed in Oakland, but instead you wanted to move to Vegas. You made your bed. Shut up. Go lie in at Vegas. That is all. Didn't help you guys hire Marvin Lewis, who's every bit as bad as Antonio Pierce, because of his intentional failures here in Cincinnati. The night game, Dallas at Pittsburgh. Game was marred by. I saw this when I was at work. I didn't even notice it till when I saw the score, why the time was, and I saw this. Didn't realize there was storms and borderline hail over there. Where was there in Pittsburgh? Hopefully you guys were safe from all of that. That was because I see it was just nasty. But this is a game where Pittsburgh is going to kick themselves in the butt a little bit, because 3 forced turnovers and a blocked field goal, got nothing done on offense. They had basically nothing going on offense. 4 drives of only more than 21 yards. The defense basically did everything they could to help you win. Couldn't capitalize on it. Dak Prescott, solid game, 352 for 2 TDs. Have my fantasy team, kudos. Game was a bit I said it was going to be a defensive muck it up game, because neither team's going to do much, in my opinion. Solid defensive game. But Dallas made the plays he needed to. Pittsburgh didn't. It's plain and simple. So that covers all of the games. Going to go back a little bit to Zac Taylor a little bit. I never seen a press conference of any caliber in any sport ever. Maybe it happened a few times before. I can think of more recent memory, where a head coach just blatantly, intentionally, and willfully throw a star quarterback under the bus. That's what was done. Most times that's a fireable offense, but Mike Brown doesn't have the balls or the heart or the spine or the soul to do the right thing. Can you imagine if Andy Reid did that to Patrick Mahomes? Could you imagine if Bill Belichick did that to Tom Brady, or Bill Walsh Bill Walsh or George Seifert did that to Joe Montana, there would be giant outrage all over the place calling for the coach, calling for the coach's head. That was one of the most unethical and one of the most blatantly ignorant and cowardly things I have ever seen, to just go into front of a microphone and just basically tell everybody out loud, I did this, but the quarterback did this. That was blatant and intentional and just absolutely downright nasty. And we have people in Cincinnati apologizing for him. Zim, the Bengals captain, etc. I'll get to you two tomorrow. When you want to put my name in your mouth, I'll counter tomorrow. Especially you guys all are there. I don't do this, but you want to put my name, I'll get you guys tomorrow. But back to Zac Taylor. Now you came out here and say you're not going to write off the team as a Super Bowl contender also. I get it. That's your job as a coach, to not write the team off. That's what the goal is. I get it. But to call everybody dumb because they started writing you off, I don't know what the hell to say. This is one of the most blatant, inexcusable, moronic, and cowardly things I have ever seen. Any head coach does that to their star quarterback or their team like that, they're out the door in a minute. It speaks to the cowardice of the Bengals ownership, the Bengals super fans, the Bengals cosplay fans, the Bengals content creators. I said all along, there needs to be some giant accountability out here, but nobody has the balls to do it. It's just the way the organization has been run for 30 years. And there's a reason why. You guys have been the laughingstock when it comes to this. Steelers did it for you for many years. Ravens did it for you for many years. Chiefs are now doing it. And it's well-deserved. The more things change, the more it stays the same. Do you guys know why you went 30-plus seasons without a playoff win? Do I need to tell you about the times you guys went 3-13, 2-14, and you guys were the mockery of the league? Seem like a lot of you guys like it. I have nothing more to say. You seem like a lot of you guys like it. You guys aren't even trying for whatever reason. You guys aren't even trying to hold people accountable. You guys just letting things be the way they are. To let the head coach Blunt throw a $275 million investment under the bus the way he did it yesterday, it's just one of the most. Not just do it. Do it publicly in front of a camera, in front of a microphone, and to do it that blatantly, it's just terrible. That's one of those things. I can't. I say this. You say a lot of things about Joe Burrow, but he's a headstrong guy. He's not going to let it. He's not going to take it out on him publicly. Maybe he does privately. Who knows? Do it like that. That's one of those things. Mostly is like the equivalent of publicly criticizing your boss all over the work, in the workplace, and it gets out to him. He's pulling you with a conversation, and he's going to fire your ass. The guy shouldn't even have a job today. And there's some people here in Cincinnati that thinks what he did was okay. Trust me, if Andy Reid did that to Patrick Mahomes, if John Harbaugh did that to Lamar Jackson, Bill Belichick did that to Tom Brady, their respective fan bases will be letting them have it, and at the worst, calling for their heads. That's unacceptable. Now we're going to talk about the weirdest thing that always happens Saturday before the game, since it's crossed my mind. These bogus NFL fines. Question I have is, what's the criteria and who comes up with these figures? I mean, one of them had to find a $5,874. What are we finding these guys for? Who's coming up with these figures? And what's being accomplished here? Somebody explain this to me. Basically, it seems like these guys are being fined for playing football. I mean, Alan Lazard and CeeDee Lamb get fined for the gun pose. You're basically finding them for celebrating a catch. And of course, this happened last year a couple of times. I think it was with Jaylen Warren of the Steelers. He lowers he's trying to lower himself down and protects the ball just because he puts his head down. He gets fined. And Jalen Warren gets the fines Jalen Warren gets because his salary is like one of the bare minimum across the entire league. You're fining him his entire paycheck. What's being accomplished out of all this? Are you trying to hold the referees accountable for missing calls? All right. Do you feel the need? Does the NFL feel the need to implement and increase their cash flow when they already have enough of a cash flow to take it out of the players' pockets? I don't want to hear a dang thing about first of all, I don't want to hear a dang thing about player safety anymore in regards to the NFL because the NFL quit giving a damn about player safety a long time ago. Maybe since before it started. So you could miss me with that player safety garbage. But the fact that you guys want to just wait till the day before NFL Sunday to announce you're fining people, and the fact that it is that you're fining people these figures without specifying why they're being fined and what's the set criteria for it, that is where this whole thing is a failure. I don't get it. Everybody across the end, even the couch potato fans get it, and that's saying a whole lot about the NFL. I'm not going to go as far as these idiots and say I'm not going to watch the game because a lot of these idiots do, and then they come back Sunday, turn on the TV, and they're watching the game. I just don't get what in the world is being accomplished when you announce these fines the day before Sunday. The reasons for it, and when it finds out on the video replay, the fines for it are basically because all they're doing is playing football. A couple of them, I sort of get the Buffalo Bills player that need Kyle Van Noy purposefully, but they only got fined $8,000. But the guys that celebrate gun celebrations get fined $16,000. The hypocrisy, the crooked to schmuckbuckery, and the pot me kettle approach the NFL has sometimes reveals itself in the most ugliest ways. I'll watch it. I'm not going to say I'm not because I think it's just dumb for anyone just turning off for this. But something needs to be said about what's going on here. And I think someone's telling the fine total of the season, I think about $113,000 through week 5 in fines. Some of the figures and some of the reasons for it, it's just mind blowing. Let the guys play a little bit. I mean, they rescinded a fine by Bengals receiver Andre Yosevich, where I guess he did the bow and arrow thing, which I thought was the right move. But at least let us know what the criteria is and be specific because you guys are not. Speaking of the NFL, the NFLPA, with one of the most bizarre statements I ever read when it talks about waiting 40 minutes to do player interviews, not go in the locker room. These players' unions and all these leagues are just a wisecrack joke. Blatantly. One of the most wisecrack jokes ever, and it's just weird to say it again. I guess it spun up from the interview Bengals center Ted Karras had here about, locker room sanity. I listened to it. He does have a sort of a point. But here we go again. It's bad enough they implemented these in-game interviews the same way the NBA does. And now they're resorting to this. It's one of those things again where the NFL can simply just miss me with a garbage. Because I got this off of a respected columnist for CBS named Pete Prisco, who basically just went off on the subject. It seems like even more the NFL wants to become more of a joke when it comes to their inconsistencies. And they do it again. I don't know what this rule is, but maybe you guys in the NFLPA need to focus on more serious issues. Because apparently in the next 2 years, another CBA agreement is coming up, and you guys are headed for another lockout at the rate you're going. I'm appalled how many people in the NFL actually put up with this garbage. I don't know what it is. That's how they want to act. That's fine, but there's some real fun, especially DeMaurice Smith, who's just basically a clown coward these days. I remember when he first came in, he just came across as a reject version of Kevin Hart with a shaved head. I mean, that's what DeMaurice Smith looks like. But again, that whole thing is just a joke. Miss me with it. What the hell you want the guys to do? I mean, that's their job to, get go in the locker room and ask questions. Granted, you can probably tweak the rules, but the way you worded it, you guys sound like real arrogant, trying to protect the players, which I don't want to hear about because you haven't tried to protect the players ever since the NFL came about, especially the establishment of the Players Association, because your thoughts of player safety have been out the window a long time ago because you let the owners and the commissioner run wild on you when it comes to player safety rules, and some of the rules have gotten blatantly stupid. So miss me with your crooked tooth, two-faced schmuck bucket hypocrisy. You guys in the NFLPA, shut up and go sit down. There's my NFL talk for the week. Touch on a couple more things before I wrap this up. For my Cincinnati followers out here, big announcement today. Terry Francona is the manager of the Reds after the David Bell era, which was basically a dead era. Solid career for Terry Francona. Of course, won a couple World Series when he was with Boston. Did a great job turning around Cleveland and make them a respectable franchise. Of course, the outstanding player Jose Ramirez. But I was going to say this. They're going to find a way to screw this up. They will find a way. As long as the Castellinis and the coward Nick Kroll are in office, they're going to find a way to screw this up. You got an excellent hire, but you're going to screw it up. Just like the NFL team here in Cincinnati, Major League Baseball has been doing that since 1990. Y'all want to take over when y'all ran Marchand out, but Marchand deserved to be ran out because she was as a bigoted racist. But you guys are going to screw this up. I'm not holding my collective breath like 90% of you all in Cincinnati are, but I'll say this. There needed to be a form of an atmosphere change after how the David Bell era ended, because forever, Cincinnati has always been a baseball town. The history of the Reds speaks for itself. I was there Wednesday night when y'all were celebrating the life of Pete Rose. Did a great job with the statue. The big sign of "I miss you." Everybody signed it. Yours truly being one of them. When I was there Wednesday night, it felt like baseball died in Cincinnati. I'll just say one thing. Maybe the spirit of Pete Rose now goes into Terry Francona. And maybe if Cincinnati does not screw it up, that might be the jolt the city needs. Because Cincinnati, you can say a lot of things about the Cincinnati sports all over the world, especially here. It is a good sports town. They love their sports. They're a little too passionate for many reasons. I could say a bunch of other things, but I won't. But they are passionate about their sports. They are passionate about their Reds. And maybe they can get something going here. The roster still has work to do in Cincinnati. It has work to do big time. I mean, you have dead weight like Spencer Steer and Tyler Stevenson, who need to be out just for beginners. Jonathan India needs to shut up and play ball because he doesn't know how to shut up and play ball. And of course, the standout, Ellie needs to take the next step. I pray that I'm wrong when I say the Reds are going to screw it up. I would love to come here and say I'm wrong, but I'm not banking on it. Now to all my fight followers out there, another day in history. I love talking about historical sporting events of all types: baseball, basketball, football, boxing, MMA, because it helps me tell people and understand why I say the things I do. Because when I grew up, there was a time when the sport of boxing was the number one storyline across all the sports. When you turn on Sports Center, the news, it was always a big fight. Ali Foreman, Holyfield, Bo Pernell Whitaker, Julio Cesar Chavez, just to name a few. One of the this time 40 some odd years ago, one of the great little big men fights took place between Alexis Arguello and Ray Mancini. What a heck of a fight between two top 10 all-time lightweights. Maybe you could put, I don't know about Mancini being the top 10. Arguello definitely is up there. Arguello is probably the second greatest Latino fighter behind Roberto Duran, in my opinion. But what a hell of a fight. And I don't say this much about boxing because of the volatile nature of how the sport is. But I encourage everyone, especially not a fight follower, to do the research on these two gentlemen, because outside the ring, that's what these two guys were. It was the brawler Ray Mancini, blood and guts warrior from Youngstown, Ohio, 6 hours from where I live. Always gave an honest effort, left it all out there. The premier technician at that time, one of the premier pound-for-pound fighters of the sport, the great Alexis Arguello. What a heck of a fight. Both guys gave it their all. Of course, as the fight wore on, Mancini, who was prone to getting beat up and cuts and swellings, started to show, and Arguello's greatness took over. When we talk about some of the elite, all-time great little big men south of the middleweight division, in your top 10 list, I better see Alexis Arguello's name on there. Because if I don't, as the late Roger Mayweather would say, you don't know expletive about boxing. Alexis Arguello was basically built almost like a toothpick as you see on TV. He didn't seem like a guy that was built to be a boxer. He didn't seem like a guy that was built to be in combat sports or violence because of how he carried himself outside the ring. One of the premier class acts probably in our sport. But at the right time, because of his in-ring ability, his ability to throw and land with high-level accuracy, he's also one of those guys that could be one mean SOB. And he genuinely was, especially on this night when, as a fight wore on, he started to give Ray Mancini a beating. Honest effort by Ray Mancini, blood and guts guy. But when they say the levels to this, Alexis Arguello was one of those guys when he was in that ring. He showed the levels. And he did it here on this night. Terrific fight between Arguello and Mancini. Great lightweight fight. Maybe the greatest thing that happened after this fight was Alexis Arguello went to Ray Mancini and basically told him, if you need anything, come to me. I'm here for you. Ray Mancini's father was at ringside watching this. He has a deep military background, and if you guys follow boxing, the story there, I'm not going to reiterate it because I get all over the place just thinking about this. But after he beats Ray Mancini, to go to tell Ray Mancini, I'll do anything for you, it doesn't speak to just not just the competitor Alexis Arguello was, but it speaks to the man he was. I mean, you don't see gentlemen in our sport do anything like that. Alexis Arguello, for that time, he sort of got caught in a weird era because the Four Kings, he had the Four Kings of Leonard, Hagler, Hearns, Duran, of course, the back end of Ali, Frazier, Wilfredo Gomez, Salvador Sanchez. He was stuck in the middle of that. Probably not the best, but probably the most fundamentally sound fighter of that time. Alexis Arguello knew the basics better than anyone else. He could do two things. When he throws, he lands. And when he lands, he does damage. What he did to Ray Mancini that night was just absolutely unreal. Now, of course, Mancini did bounce back to have a pretty solid career. Beat Frias, whacked out Frias in one round to win the lightweight belt. Of course, the sad tragedy against Duke Koo Kim back in '82, where it was a give and take brawl where, Duke Koo Kim was, pronounced dead days after. Of course, everybody boxing knows a sad story there. I'm not going to divulge into it because I don't like talking about sad stories much. Because the what happened to him after that fight is something he still lives with. But I got to tip my hat to Ray Mancini for one thing with this. He's dealt with it and he's handled it, the death of Duke Koo Kim, probably as well as anybody could. I mean, people ask him every day, what's it like to kill a guy? He's handled it. He's handled it as well. And he's another guy like Alexis Arguello that was a high level human being out of the ring. Always interactive. Always knew how to spoke, just like Arguello. Both well-spoken men. And put on a great show 43 and a half years ago in one of the most stellar south of the middleweight division great fights you'll see. Alexis Arguello, I know you're at the pearly gates right now. Just want to give you a shout out to the top for blessing the boxing world with your magnificence, your brilliance, your elegance, because you were just sensational. Ray Mancini, a lot of us in Ohio, especially up there in the Northeast, you gave us a lot of thrills, a lot of exciting moments. You know, your 2 fights with Livingstone Bramble were great give and take fights. Granted, you lost both of them, but still, you always gave an honest effort, left it all on the ring that night, and especially did against Alexis Arguello. That's why everybody loved you. One of the 2 of the more popular figures south of the middleweight division. Arguello's place in history is secure. Probably the second greatest Latino fighter behind Roberto Duran. Probably a ceiling because Duran wipes out the Latinos right now, all time. Mancini, one of the better athletes to come out of Ohio, one of the better give and take lightweights of all time. These two, and that day in Atlantic City, on free TV, by the way. This fight was on free TV, not pay-per-view, not HBO or Showtime. Free TV. A super fight between Alexis Arguello and Ray Mancini was on free TV. Gave us a hell of a show that day. Kudos to the 2 of you. I love talking about these historical events because I get asked a lot of questions. What was it like for you growing up versus now? How do you compare and contrast? What I do is I'd like to talk about this from what my 2 eyes saw back then. Whatever it is, sports, business, entertainment, finances, investments, you name it. I got a chance to witness this in 81. These 2, shout out to Alexis Arguello and Ray Mancini. I love the hell out of both fighters. 2 terrific fighters made for 1 terrific fight. And back then, you got a chance to watch it on free TV with the bunny ears on top of the television set wrapped up in aluminum foil. That was how you watch boxing back in the day. And that will wrap it up for another edition of Sirhan on X. I look forward to talking to you guys somewhere down the line. I'm glad to be back here after a 3-day weekend. These 12-hour shifts are killing me. I hope everybody out there is doing well today. Enjoy the day. Everybody out here is awesome. Much love as always. Until then, take care of yourselves. Good night. Enjoy the day, and God bless.